Meeting will come to order. Pursuant to notice on June 17th, the committee meets to consider nominations and legislation. I note the presence of a quorum. I want to thank everybody for coming. I really do appreciate the cooperation that all the members and quite honestly all the staff has been showing in really, I think, meeting the aspirational goal that I set out here in our first opening business meeting, which was to find the areas of agreement. We've done it again with this, our third business meeting scheduled to mark up a piece of legislation. I know staff has worked very, very diligently behind the scenes, and I know members have been very accommodating to each other's viewpoints in proposing a piece of legislation. There might have been some problems with it, and those members that objected, you came to common ground. So what we have here today is we have 13 pieces of legislation. They're basically going to be non-controversial because of the time and effort people put into trying to find those areas of agreement. So I guess what I'd like to do, there may be one piece of legislation that there may be some issues with that might require a roll call vote. Otherwise, I think the other 12 will be able to be voted en bloc. And so I'll turn it over to our ranking member for an opening statement. I'd like consent to enter my written statement into the record. But then I'll open up to other members on the 12 non-controversial if they want to speak to the piece of legislation they've introduced or co-sponsored, and then we'll take up the final one that may require a roll call vote. But with that, Senator Carper.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for pulling this together today, and for everybody in the committee that's participated in the markup. I think most of our members have actually offered legislation, either bills or amendments, and it's I like that bipartisan spirit. Especially want to thank our staff members. Our folks were working late into the night last night trying to find consensus around, among other things, the Einstein authorization. And I think we made some real progress, and even I was chatting with Senator McKean on his way in and just got off the phone with Senator Paul. And late into the night last night, our folks were working with yours, I think making progress, and I think there might be more consensus there in the end than we had even hoped for. But thanks to everybody for trying to get us to yes. Today there are 3 nominees that we have, and a number of important bills on the agenda that reflect some good bipartisan consensus. Among the bills we're going to be considering today is something called Saving Federal Dollars Through Better Use of Government Purchase and Travel Cards. And I'm pleased to sponsor the legislation along with Chuck Grassley and our chairman and Senator McCaskill. Government charge cards are a necessary and useful tool for federal employees who use them to pay for official expenses when they travel, and also to make small purchase items for government use. But we've got to be vigilant to make sure that these are not abused. For example, the Department of Defense Inspector General recently identified instances of government charge cards being used improperly at casinos and adult entertainment facilities. This common sense measure will ensure that charges against government cards are analyzed in order to identify improper use and thus help agencies to be better stewards of our taxpayer dollars. I'm also eager for a committee to discuss the nomination of Carol Ochoa to be Inspector General for General Services Administration. I might just say, everybody in this committee in the last Congress signed a letter to the President, said we need for this administration to focus on identifying and vetting and nominating excellent candidates to be IGs. Had some effect. We sent a similar letter again earlier this year, led by Senator Johnson and myself, but joined by everybody in the committee. We're getting through. The administration has begun whittling down the number of vacancies, and we have, I think, maybe 4 more to go. Among those 2 top priorities, one is the Interior Department of Interior. Haven't had a Senate-confirmed IG for 5 years. VA hadn't had a Senate-confirmed IG for about 1.5 years. And I've been talking with the very, very senior levels of the administration. I know we've been reaching out individually, and I think we've gotten their attention, and they're working it hard. But I just wanted to share that with all of you. In addition to Ms. Ochoa, we considered 2 nominees to be associate judges of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. Both Judge Nutter, he pronounces his name Noter, but we pronounce it Neuter. Well, I've concluded he mispronounces his own name. He and Judge Wellner originally nominated back in, listen to this, 2013. And my hope is that we can act today to report out these well-qualified nominees and then move them quickly out of the Senate. They have waited far too long. I'm also pleased that today's agenda reflects the good bipartisan work that our committee members are known for doing to make our government work better. For example, we'll consider legislation offered by Senators Ernst and Heitkamp to help improve the management of programs across the federal government. We thank you for that. And also thank you, Senator Heitkamp, for the wonderful story you shared with us this morning at our weekly prayer breakfast. Most people would not believe that senators, Democrats, Republicans, and occasional independent actually get together for breakfast on Wednesday mornings and pray together, read a scripture together, sing together. Who would think that would be possible? Only in this committee, maybe, but also at the weekly prayer breakfast. And Heidi was our inspirational leader. So Heidi, thank you for that. We also consider a bill put forward today by Senator Tester, Senator Portman, Heitkamp and Enzi, that allows agencies, this is a really good bill, I think, but it allows agencies to share lists of qualified candidates with each other so others, when they're hiring, can actually fill positions and do it in a more timely way. So I think it's a really good idea. And I also want to thank our committee members for their continued commitment to finding bipartisan solutions to some of the problems we face. Before I close, I want to come back and most of us were at the briefing yesterday on the Office of Personnel Management breach, hack. And it's a great concern to everybody here, all of our colleagues, and a lot of people whose personal information, personally identifiable information has been compromised. One of the things we said at the beginning of that session and at the end is, what can we do? I asked our witnesses, Secretary Johnson and others, what can we do in the Congress? And one of the things that they all agreed on is to authorize not Einstein 1, it's already out there. Einstein 2, it's already out there. There's a detection systems. Einstein 3 is good for not only detecting, but also for blocking these attacks. And they've asked us to please move legislation that authorizes Einstein 3 so we can spread it not just over about half the federal agencies, but almost all the federal agencies. We had that on the markup today. We have some I won't say competing amendments, but amendments offered by Senator Paul and amendments offered by Senator McCain. I think they all have merit. We got made real progress in the last couple of days, up until the wee hours of this morning. And we're not going to go forward, as Chairman and I talked about, we're not going to go forward with that legislation today, but I sure hope we can resolve any remaining differences and make sure that it's at the top of our list when we come back in July. So with that having been said, thanks again to everybody, and let's go to work.
Thanks, Senator Carper. There are a number of traditions of this committee, certainly bipartisan, cooperative.
All in?
Well, I think one of the traditions is we always mispronounce names. And so I think that's, you've proven that true as well. By the way, I did speak with Secretary Johnson this morning, and certainly made my commitment to work with him and the department and the committee to do whatever we can to strengthen the cybersecurity of the government IT systems. And so the Einstein authorization had not been introduced, so it hasn't even been referred to our committee, so I think it's appropriate to hold off. And I'm certainly going to spend the next month working with IT experts, the Secretary, and this committee to do, make sure that what we do authorize is going to be the absolute best, most up-to-date technology that can be adapted long-term and provide the type of security that I think the citizens of this country deserve and should expect. And so, totally committed to that, so look forward to working with you there. Seeing as we have Senator Ayotte here, I guess we'd like to start with, let me pull out the sheet. Oh, it's right. Oh, it's just the next page. Didn't have a tab. So the committee will proceed to the consideration of S-742, Stop Wasteful Federal Bonuses Act of 2015, for amendment. I guess, Senator Ayotte, would you like to speak to this bill before we offer your modified substitute amendment?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank the chairman. I want to thank Ranking Member Carper for working with my staff on this. I'm very appreciative of that. I want to thank Senator McCaskill, who's not here, who's been very focused on this issue, for her feedback.
Let the record show your staff were very difficult, so. Not really, they were good.
No, and so thank you for working with us. I know we're going to be offering a substitute amendment that will ensure that the changes that are made in this are prospective. I think that's the biggest change, and I appreciate Senator Carper working with us on that, and I think we were able to work out some good changes to it. This bill is essentially prohibits federal agencies from awarding a bonus for a period of 5 years after an adverse finding is made relating to that employee, requires repayment of the bonus awarded in any year in which an adverse finding, and we're talking about very serious misconduct by employees, meaning an offense eligible for imprisonment over a year, or conduct for which employee could be terminated or suspended for more than 14 days. So it seems to me this is something that will operate in concert with existing personnel disciplinary mechanisms to ensure that, of course, those who deserve to be recognized for their performance are, and that those who commit misconduct, that they don't benefit from that if they received a bonus. So this will also continue to allow employees due process with notice and hearing, and they will have a Merit System Protection Board appeals rights, which is important. So I want to thank both of you for working with my staff on this. I think this is an important issue. Many of, I hear from my constituents when they heard about things like what happened at the VA and bonuses that were collected by employees there that actually later were found to be involved in the manipulation of the wait lists. This is an issue that people just think, well, how can that happen? And this bill will help address that, I think, in an appropriate and fair fashion. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Ayotte. And let's face it, this is just a common sense measure that I'm fully supportive of. And again, I appreciate the work both you and Senator Carper and your staffs did to come to accommodation on this, so we can just basically pass this in a pretty non-controversial manner. So I do ask unanimous consent for the Ayotte modified substitute amendment to be considered as a substitute for the underlying bill. Is there any objection? If not so ordered, does any other member wish to discuss the bill or introduce an amendment? Good, we can keep this moving along then. If there's no further debate or amendment, the question is on the final passage of S 742 as amended. If there's no objection, we will consider by voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. The bill is reported favorably. I guess the next thing to do is, should we take up? Yes, 1090? Okay. I guess there is one out of the other four that we may require a roll call vote. So this is, the committee will proceed to the consideration of S 1090, Emergency Information Improvement Act of 2015. Does any member wish to discuss the bill or introduce an amendment? Okay, if there's no further debate or amendment, the question is on final passage. Oh, do we require a roll call vote, or is okay? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. The bill is reported favorably. I guess the next thing is just we've got 11 other pieces of legislation then in the markup. Does anybody want to speak to any of the pieces of legislation they've either sponsored or co-sponsored?
Could I
Senator McCain.
just say a word about the S-1603, the Border Jobs for Veterans Act? It has DOD and DHS to identify service members with duties that are transferable to Border Patrol duties, ensure they're aware of the opportunities, and consider using existing authorities to hire them expeditiously. I think we found out that that's not the case, so we felt this legislation was helpful in achieving a goal that we all share. I thank the committee for their consideration.
Well, let me just say, I appreciate this piece of legislation. In the private sector, certainly I found when we could hire vets, that there are no finer people that work for the business. I mean, the U.S. military, I think, is the fining training organization in the world. And the esprit de corps that is developed within those services just transfer just beautifully into any organization. So I think this is
Except
just
senators.
Well, there are exceptions. But anyway, I'm highly supportive of the bill. This is better than last time. Senator.
A lot better.
Thank you. Yes, I am supportive of Senator McCain's bill as well. I do want to keep working in this area, though. It is important to support our veterans as they transition out of their active duty or reserve status and move into these types of positions. I did work a number of years ago at Fort Benning for a transition assistance program. So I know that there are a number of these types of veterans assistance programs out there. year. We want to make sure that we're streamlining them and getting our veterans into positions such as these. I am supportive of this bill. I think we do need to look at the number of job assistance type programs out there and make sure that we're getting them all together and on one page so that all veterans know what assistance is available to them as they're exiting the military. I am supportive of this bill, and I thank the senator for putting it forward.
And I agree. I think you're concerned about a duplicated program is valid. And I think that probably the best thing we can do is if you have a kind of a centralized go-to website so that, you know, any organization, any business in the private sector knows they can go right to here and they can find a veteran in their community that's looking for work and that'll be a valuable asset to their business or organization. So, appreciate your comments.
Absolutely.
Senator Carper.
Yeah. I want to thank Senator Ernst for her continued service. Are you still in the are you a lieutenant colonel?
I am.
You still serve, don't you?
Yes.
Good for you.
Thank you.
We salute you. John and I spent some time in the Navy right about the same time, and came home, got a GI Bill, got about $250 a month. Happy to have it. It doesn't compare very favorably with what we have today, but we can be proud of what we provide our veterans today. We want to make sure that folks that are getting that GI Bill, they get their money's worth, and we want to make sure that taxpayers get their money's worth as well. We're going to get tomorrow, every week, the Department of Labor reports out something called the unemployment filings, the number of people who filed for unemployment insurance in the last week. And if you go back 6.5 years, that January of 2009, 628,000 people filed for unemployment insurance in that 1 week. Actually, the week that Joe Biden and Barack Obama were sworn in, 628,000 people filed. Last week, the number was about 280, and it's running under 300,000. Anytime that number is under 400,000, the unemployment rate is coming down. We're adding jobs in the economy, so we're holding about 280,000, which is actually very good news. There's still a bunch of people in our country, as you know, there's millions of jobs where employers are looking for people to fill them, and we've got millions of people over here looking for jobs. And part of the challenge is how do we make sure that these job skills over here fit the job needs and skills needs of the employers. And as Senator McCain has pointed out with this legislation, as it turns out, there's a bunch of veterans coming back. Whether they're coming back from overseas or just here in the States, and they have the skills that are needed, in this case, by CBP. And it's a great opportunity here to make a match, and I think it's very, I really much want to compliment them. The other thing I'll say is this is show and tell. Chris Coons came up, our colleague from Delaware, came up with an idea, and his staff came up with an idea about 2.5 years ago. And the idea that they came up with 2.5 years ago were job fairs. Job fairs. Every 2 months, Senator Coons, Congressman John Carney, we only have one congressional seat in our state, but we host a job fair. And about every third one is just for veterans. And we have scores of employers who come in, and we have hundreds of people looking for work who come in. And we do them up and down our state. But about every third one is for veterans only. And it's something that gives us a lot of satisfaction, and I think it serves a real value. And you know, some of you may do the same kind of thing, or maybe have better ideas. But I would just share that one with you. If anybody wants to know how we do it, we'd be happy to share how it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Carper. And you're right, that is a tried and true method. I know in Wisconsin, as we travel around, and Senator Baldwin, I think, would confirm this as well, manufacturers are having a hard time finding people. And so we definitely have skills gaps, but we also have worker gaps, and so much of it is just making that connection. And so, again, I applaud Senator McCain for doing that, for introducing this bill. Is there any other senator that would like to speak to one of these pieces of legislation? Senator Ernst.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ranking Member Carper. I would like to take the time and just talk about the Program Management Improvement and Accountability Act. And I want to thank both of you for your leadership and assistance on this, but especially to my colleague, Senator Heitkamp, for also sponsoring this legislation. The Program Management Improvement and Accountability Act will ensure that large programs that are being run by the federal government are cost efficient, on budget, and on schedule. And I think that's very important to all of us in this committee to make sure that we are being as efficient as possible. So many of our government agencies have literally thrown away millions and millions of dollars with ineffective programs because they weren't being watched closely. They didn't have members that were experts on how to develop these programs and ensure that they are finishing on time and on budget. So I just want to thank you for being supportive of this amendment. I look forward to working on this in the future and ensuring that we get our government agencies back on track with these types of programs. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Senator, and I appreciate your leadership on this issue. You know, there's probably no greater need than as we look at how do we protect our IT assets in the federal government in terms of having programs that are properly managed. It's not millions, it's billions of dollars that are spent ineffectively and inefficiently. We can't afford that. So again, I appreciate that. Any other senator wishing to speak to any of these pieces of legislation? Well, given the bipartisan nature of the bills, I think we can vote on the remaining bills on the agenda en bloc. I ask unanimous consent that we consider reporting the following bills en bloc. S. 1629, District of Columbia Court Services and Offender Supervision Agency Act of 2015. S. 1576, Representative Payee Fraud Prevention Act of 2015. S. 1550, Program Management Improvement Accountability Act, as amended by the Ernst Modified Substitute Amendment and McCain Amendment Number 1. S. 1616, Saving Federal Dollars Through Better Use of Government Purchase and Travel Cards Act of 2015. S. 1580, Competitive Services Act of 2015. S. 1603, Border Jobs for Veterans Act, as amended by the Johnson Substitute Amendment. S. 1115, Grants Oversight and New Efficiency Act, as amended by the Johnson Modified Substitute Amendment and Johnson Amendment Number 2. S. 310, Eliminating Government-Funded Oil Painting Act. S. 991, Evidence-Based Policy Commission Act, as amended by the Johnson Modified Substitute Amendment. S. 1620, DHS IT Duplication Reduction Act of 2015. S. 1638, DHS Headquarter Consolidation Accountability Act of 2015. And H.R. 728, H.R. 89, well, no, those are the, oh, can we do those? H.R. 728, H.R. 891, H.R. 1326, and H.R. 1350. Hearing no objection, all those in favor say aye. Oops.
It was 1360 for the record. I think you said 1350.
Well, it's because it's written as 1350. So,
Well, I might be wrong then. 'Cause- okay.
no, okay. So HR 1360, we'll take care of that. We'll hold them accountable. We got legislation to do that.
It is 13.
Oops. Oh, so we'll be holding you accountable.
I guess. Sorry, Stu. No bonuses for you, buddy.
Let the record show HR 1350.
How about a clawback?
Okay. Hearing no objection, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The measures are reported favorably. The committee will now proceed to the consideration en bloc of the three nominees on our agenda. Carol 14 Ochoa to be Inspector General of the General Services Administration. You know, my guess is I just fulfilled that tradition again of mispronouncing a name. I apologize to the nominee. William Ward Noter to be Associate Judge, District of Columbia Superior Court. Mr. Noter has twice been voted out of our committee in 2013, 2014. And Stephen Wellner to be Associate Judge, District of Columbia Superior Court. Mr. Wellner was voted out of our committee last year. I recommend that we report all three nominees. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The three nominees are reported to the full Senate. Next. I ask unanimous consent that the full committee majority and minority staff, by mutual agreement, be authorized to make any required technical and conforming changes to the measures we have reported out today. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The business meeting is adjourned.
Great job.
Short and sweet.